ladies. He's mine.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Yogi's Garage. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're in the middle of an engine takeout replacement project with a 1995 Mercedes Benz E320 Wagon. I also work on different kinds of cars from Audi to Porsche. And if you're interested, I also have a Porsche 911 project that I'm working on. It's a 2002 911 Carrera Cabriolet that I'm completely rebuilding the engine as well as restoring some of the issues on it. So be sure to check that one out. So in the first video, you saw that I went to go pick up the engine and got a plan together on what I was gonna do to take the engine out. In this video, I'm picking up right where I left off. I'm getting ready to drain the fluids and take it from the top. So without further ado, let's fix it. All right, step one, drain the fluids. And I gotta pull the radiator, it seems, as well. It makes sense. Radiator looks like it's pretty easy to get out, so no big deal. So let's jack this thing up. I think I've got the clearance necessary to get my heavy duty jack stands on the front here. And we're gonna take a look. I also reached out to some folks on the forums. Looks like there's a vacuum line missing right there as well. Check that out. I reached out to folks on the forum asking whether or not I can pull just the engine without having to pull the entire power unit, which includes the transmission. They're saying that in here there's some bolts on the bell housing that are inaccessible from underneath or from above. I'll have to take a look at that and confirm that. And if that's the case, then I've got to get a big transmission that probably goes to about right here, forward to about right here, out in this space with a lift. I think I can do it, but again, real estate is kind of a scarcity right now because I have the replacement engine and I got to find a spot here that I can stick it and swap the parts out. So we'll see. And of course I got a table here for all of the parts that I'm taking off. Up here, I'm probably gonna use this as well. These are the pistons for my 2002 Porsche 911 over there. And a lot of these parts are not going back in. I'm going to a 4 liter from a 3.6. These are 3.6. So I'm gonna put all this away and then free up this area here for parts. Let's get started. So, like everything else with an engine takeout, you got to get the fluids out. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to do two things at once and knock out the oil as well as the coolant. And then I'll circle back for the power steering hydraulic fluid. The older you get, the harder it is to do anything on your back, getting up and down. All right, the oil plug is 13 mil. There we go. I'm gonna do my darndest to not get oil on me, but you know how that goes. And this oil is cold. I don't want to start the engine. I'll just get the oil, what I can, out of it. I'm not putting this engine back in. So it doesn't really matter all that much. Okay, here we go. Nice and slow. Ooh. That oil's a little cloudy. Smells like gas. That's because of the zero compression on 5 and 6. See, that oil is kind of brownish, cloudy brownish, like chocolate milk. Usually that's an indicator of coolant, but it can also be an indicator of fuel. And the oil feels a little viscous, but not as viscous as it should be. So that is bad, but this engine's bad. So what do you expect? All right, there is a pepcock right here and the valve to get the coolant out. I'm gonna get my pair of pliers in there and just twist that and pull it a little bit, and the coolant will come straight out, I hope. And these are never really all that fun to take out because they're typically jammed up. But I think I'm gonna get lucky on this one. I can't get my tool in there. I don't feel like taking the bumper off. All right. Hey, only a couple of drops on me this time. For those of you who follow me take other engines apart, I've made it a habit of getting really wet and taking a bath in this crap. And now that the coolant and oil are taken care of, I'm gonna start by taking off the radiator. We're gonna get the radiator off. There's some clamps here. I'm gonna get a heavy duty screwdriver and take these off and then see what I'm dealing with on the other side. There may be some screws that I need to take off. All of this is relatively new to me. The repair manual just kind of gives you high level things that you should be aware of that you need to take off, like throttle linkage, anything around steering. If it's in the way, I gotta take that out. Let's start with getting this radiator out, and I'm just gonna poke around on it and see what it takes. Okay, so the last of the hoses is here on the bottom right next to the pepcock. I've got it all removed and it's pretty loose. You can see that it just sits kind of on a set of grommets here, and the grommets are kind of worn out, so there's not much else holding it. So let's go ahead and pull it up. I'm gonna tip it a little bit to get the rest of the coolant out, because you know me and coolant, I like to bathe in it. Not really. Yeah, I was wrong. There's one more to go, and it's a 19 mil connector there at the bottom. There was one here at the top. Now there's one more down there. Then this thing will come out. All right, let me get that. All right, I think that did the trick. I think I'm ready to get this out. It should just come straight up. Yep, and my dogs are barking. Shut up, dogs. And there's my floor full of fluid. You can see there's a lot left in the radiator, and it managed to make it onto my beautiful floors. Curse you! All right, that's all out. Look how much room I got now to take care of a whole bunch of stuff. And it looks like these are power steering or hydraulic cooler lines. So I've got my bucket of garbage fluids down there. By the way, in case you're wondering what you do with stuff like that after you're done, believe it or not, you have to take this stuff to a waste recycling place near you. Unfortunately, places like O'Reilly's and auto parts shops in general just don't take coolant mixed with junk. In fact, they won't even take your oil if it's mixed with stuff. Although they've told me that on many times people are bringing, coolant mixed oil because of with problems with their car where the coolant's reached the oil. And this power steering unit has been giving me trouble, and it needs to be rebuilt, even though I see it's been rebuilt once because there's a man filter there, which is a aftermarket. So anyway, I'm gonna take this line off and these other lines and disconnect power steering. But first, I need to take the belt off. The belt, that is a 15 millimeter bolt for the tensioner, and then I can get the belt right off. That in the time lapse I was trying to snake that belt out of there, but it's a real pain in the butt when you have the fan clutch still attached. So I just cut it. I mean, I'm getting a new belt. There's no point in trying to wrestle it. I remember getting this back on after I tried to fix the cylinder head, only to find out there was bolts in it, and it was a pain in the butt. And one of these bolts in the fan itself is stripped out, so that's making it difficult to get just the plastic fan off. What I'm gonna have to do is get the clutch off and take the fan off. But I'm hoping to get this thing out of here without having to take the fan off. I can take it off when it's out. And I think that's the plan I'm gonna go with. All right, I have one more hydraulic line here. I've got some vacuum lines, it looks like right there I'll have to worry about. But I'm gonna get the air box off now, so that's the next phase. All right, not too bad, pretty easy to do. Couple of bolts here you take off. Those are 10 mils and they fit right into these little rubber grommets there. So piece of cake, pop it right off. The mass airflow sensor is a screw type. Just unscrew it and you're good to go. Now, as far as the airbox is concerned, it's not attached with fasteners or bolts or anything. It's just friction fitted here with these grommets, and this housing needs to be pulled up, no big deal. So we're good here, and you can see that it opens up a whole lot of room here and exposes this pipe right here. And this looks like this may go to a heater core because it goes right into the block. Now I'm gonna take care of the wiring harness next, and then intake and fuel. So wiring harness, fuel, intake, making progress. Okay, taking the wiring harness is not that big of a deal. There's several connectors here to this vacuum distribution thing. And of course for the cam. And then the big one, I say big one, but it's really not that big of a deal. But the ground goes here and then to another junction. So you have to disconnect this from that. And you can see when I tug on this wire, you can see that that's where it goes. And in there, this is the ground. I believe it's a ground. It looks like a ground. That's a 7 mil way down in there. So I'm gonna take that off, and that should free up the harness, and I'm gonna keep snaking things out. Once this is out of the way, then I can address the fuel rail. I went ahead and disconnected all of the fuel injectors. Really easy to do. I have the other videos to show you more detail on that, but you just pinch the springs, pull the thing up, and boom, you're done. So after that, then I can pull the fuel rail off just as soon as I relieve the pressure. Oh, and to relieve the pressure, you have a Schrader valve here, and you can also open your gas tank to relieve the pressure. It's not a whole lot of pressure, but you don't want fuel spraying everywhere. But I can tell you, my garage smells a little bit like fuel because of the oil, and I'm also smelling fuel in the coolant. So this thing had some major problems. It needs to be recycled and made into something more useful than a paperweight at this point. Okay, Yogi Mama's on the camera. For those of you just visiting Yogi's Garage for the first time, Yogi Mama is a vital asset in Yogi's Garage, so thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, fuel rail's out. Intake manifold is also out. There was a few more of those Allen head, 6mm Allen head bolts that I needed to worry about, but I went ahead and disconnected this. And I'm gonna pull it up. There's a vacuum line here that we need to worry about. Where's that at? Yeah. There. Okay. And there. One more vacuum line, it looks like. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Now, I know some of you are probably saying, Yogi, you didn't need to take the intake manifold off to get the engine out. While I agree with you, it makes it a whole lot easier to get down below the cylinder head to get at knock sensors, things like that, that you're gonna have to take off anyway if you're gonna leave the wiring harness behind, which is what I'm doing. All right, so thank you, Yogi Mama. Let's move on. All right, making progress here. I've taken the knock sensors off, just a little bit of advice on that. Let me give you an example on the knock. This is not the knock sensor, obviously, but this is the same type of connector. It's spring loaded, so you're supposed to push and push, take it off. These connectors are really easy. I wish more German automobiles did it like that, Audi. Anyway, big gaping opening here. Throttle cable still left. I already took the brake booster vacuum hose right here off. On top of other vacuum hoses you see that attach here and here. This car probably had quite a few vacuum leaks because some of those weren't even populated with vacuum tubes. But this throttle cable looks pretty loose, and you can see that it is pretty easy to take off. So Mercedes mantra should be work smarter, not harder. Take a look at this. When I push the throttle, when I open the throttle, I can get that cable out. No big deal, but not with one hand. Let's see. See if I can do it. Turn the light on. All right, so we're looking at right there. So push that up and then use your little finger. Boom, take that out like that. And then this throttle linkage looks like it comes right off here. And then you take it off. Easy peasy. You know, working on different types of cars, you learn different techniques of doing things every single time. Case in point, talking about these connectors on the knock sensors. But then another one is on this throttle body. And right on the intake, this is the throttle cable. There's a couple of them. I'm not familiar with the engineering behind this, so I apologize if I'm not saying it correctly. But take a look at this little swivel thing that pivots. It took me a little while to figure out. I was trying to jam it through from the side, but it's actually easier than that. If you can't see very well, I'll try to explain it, but you can see that center slit between the two, and you flip it around, it doesn't go all the way through. So that's an indicator that that is where you're supposed to open it. Take a screwdriver, stick it in there, turn, pop that off. I can't do it with one hand, but trust me, that's how you do it. Okay, the cable here that goes to the bottom is a simple ball style joint, and then to pop it out you pinch these two plastic ones and it comes right out of the housing, which is right there. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is remove the power steering pump, mainly because I got to get to the compressor because I'm leaving the HVAC system in place. I seriously doubt that there's any coolant in there, but I haven't done my due diligence on that and checked the pressure. So I'm just gonna take it out and leave it in the car, but in order to get to it, I think it would be easier to remove the hydraulic power steering pump here. There's a couple of there's one banjo bolt down there. I think it looks like a banjo bolt. And then a couple of other fittings. I didn't have to remove this metal one here, but it gave me better access to the one on the bottom that I do need to run, because this one looks like it goes to either the suspension or the transmission. I don't know the system well enough to know, but regardless, it's got to be taken out so I can get this hydraulic pump removed and keep digging down. I may have to take back everything I said nice about Mercedes here, because that bolt down there, I cannot get it out of the bracket without taking the pulley off. It's all of that work, and I can't get this pump. Can I? Wait. I think I can get it off. I'm dumb. There. I was wrong. I love you, Mercedes. All right, it is Sunday morning, and no, I'm lying. It's actually Sunday afternoon, but it's morning for me. And I'm getting started again back at it on the Mercedes. We have an air compressor right there for air conditioning that needs to come out. They're 13 millimeter bolts. It looks like 2 of them. I'm gonna get some bungee cords here and hold this up, because I'm not sure what's gonna happen when I loosen those bolts. So let's get this going. And then after that, I believe I'm pretty much done except for the manifold. And I've been running some evapor rust on those bolts down there to get them ready. All right, I'm underneath the air compressor or air conditioning compressor. And there are 4 of these 13 millimeter bolts, 2 on the bottom, 2 on the top. I'm gonna take these 2 off first, and then I'll finish up the top 2 from above. That way I can catch it before it comes crashing down on my head. All right, and there. Not a whole lot of play in that, because this pipe here is rigid, obviously, and the hose goes to the end here through some kind of canister. So there's not much I can do other than move it off to the side, and I've got it bungeed up as best I can. And not a whole lot of support necessary, because I think it's just holding on its own weight. But that's what I'm gonna do with it. Now I'm gonna get underneath and start figuring out what needs to be done for the transmission.
What you doing down here?
I am getting the exhaust pipes disconnected from the manifolds, and they're cooperating. I used evapor rust and let it soak overnight, and the bolts are cooperating. They look pretty stripped, but now not so much.
No room for your crawler under there, huh?
Nope. The other end of this thing popped loose, so I think it's just spinning now up there.
You gonna need a wrench on the other side to hold it in place?
I don't know if I can get to it. Okay, I'm making some progress here. I got these off, no problem, using the evapor rust. However, the one in the back there, I had to cut one of the bolts. I'm surprised I didn't have to cut more, but that's done. All right, so I'm ready to look at the transmission and get that one, get the braces taken off of that thing and take the drive shaft off. All right, so let me get something to hold the transmission up. I have just a tool. I bought an ATV lift that's perfect for lifting Porsche engines, but also the transmission. This is what I'm using to hold the transmission in place. I use the same exact lift to drop the engine on a 911, so I'm almost certain it's going to be able to handle just supporting the weight of the transmission while I remove the support brace on it and disconnect the drive shaft. So I'm going to slide that under and get it in place. And then there. Okay. And that'll hold it. All right, now I can take this brace off here, and that should do it. Okay.
I see you.
Hi. I am getting the support braces off of the exhausts that are attached to the transmission support brace. And then I can take that big brace down and start the engine removal process. Stuff is still moving a little bit, but this guy's keeping it all in place. Whew, that whole thing moved. Did you see that?
I did.
That always makes me nervous, man. These are short little bolts. So they're not holding a whole lot of weight, apparently. Okay. Well, I mean, look, they're like 3/4 of an inch long. So what you doing over there, Yogi Mama?
Watching you.
Yeah?
Yeah?
What's it look like?
Looks like a man trapped under a very large vehicle.
With his legs sticking out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody else can see.
I think I'm gonna rethread these. I'm gonna rethread a couple of these to hold the brace in place while I loosen this. There we go. All right, there. I don't know if you're looking at it, but there's a, like right there, there's a tear where my middle finger is. You see that?
See your finger.
Tapping? Yeah. That's it. There's a crack right there. So these look like 19mm bolts.
What's going on?
Yeah, I almost got crushed by a exhaust pipe.
Oh.
If you go and look at the end over here on the back, looks like one of the hooks has broken free. Ready? You see that?
Yeah, keep doing it. Yep, the whole thing's
Mm-hmm.
moving.
So I loosened up the brace here and it like came down. All right, I mean, I expected some play, but that hook over there, I'm gonna have to go look at it. I may just zip tie it or something to hold it in place so that it doesn't smush my head. All right, let me get under there, baby.
There you go, Yogi.
Thank you. Okay, so let me show you what I'm looking at here. These little rubber thingies here. Let me put on a light. There. All right, these little rubber hangers have broken off on this side and nothing's really holding the muffler in place. All right, so I'm gonna get another hanger or get something to hang it with so that it doesn't come tumbling down on me. But the exhaust is in pretty good shape. I mean, there's some little bit of corrosion, but it's, you know, for a car that has 240,000 miles, I think, or whatever it is, it's pretty good. Right here. Right there. So this is what was holding it. This little, I say big O-ring just came right off. So, bungee cords to the rescue, right, darling?
Handing you the whole container.
Pick a color, any color. I think I'm gonna go with red. So we'll just here. And then come. This is not permanent.
No, you'll use zip ties for that.
Yeah, zip ties are the permanent ones. That's right.
Maybe a little duct tape.
Hey, don't give away all my secrets, man.
Look, I didn't tell them about the coconuts.
All right, let me go around this thing one more time. Get a little bit more tension. There we go. That's better. Okay. There. That'll last another 100,000 miles.
At least.
All right. Here, I'm going to give you my official storage container for bungees. All right. This is about 4 or 5 inches. This is how one gets out from underneath the car like this. It's called a reverse inchworm.
Back off, ladies. He's mine.
Look at that. Good core workout. Ta-da! Oh.
Bye, Yogi.
Bye. This is hands down the worst part, is getting under a car with so little clearance. And then, you know, trying not to hit your face with your tools. That's always a bonus. And your hands are slippery. There. Whoa. Oh, I got one more to do. All right, I need that brake released so I can turn this shaft one more time.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna.
All right, this is not a pleasant place to be. I'm at the tail end of the transmission and I separated the flex plate from the transmission. That was kind of a pain in the butt. You know, I'm not familiar with this. I'm pretty sure I probably could have taken this rear transmission support brace out, but I did not. Then back there, you see that hole, that's where the speedometer cable went. It's dangling over here. And this is your shifter as well. So gotta make sure all this comes out nice and clean when we pull it out, but you can see that the transmission, it's now separated, and I can go back up top and finish up the wiring. Let me show you what's left. All right, I'm back up top, and you can see what I have left here. I'll point it out. Heater coil going into the cylinder head, it looks like right there, so I gotta take that off. And then of course I've got the rest of the wiring harness, the spark plugs, et cetera, and then I gotta come back over here and disconnect the main wiring harness so that it comes out with the car. But everything else is taken care of. As you know, the exhaust I've already done, front end's done. We're real close, pretty close, I think. Let's see. Block is still leaking fluid, coolant, so I want to clog that up so it doesn't leak and make a big old mess. That leveler is a lifesaver. However, when you put it at the most steepest angle, you'll see that it has a fatal flaw. You'll see that each time I try to jack the engine up, it starts to swing forward towards the front of the car, thus making it almost impossible to get it out. The bell housing at this point is wedged up against the firewall, so I'm wasting my time. I wish I knew that. And even with the strength of the youth, I still could not get that engine out. Once we get it up and over, we'll be okay. Keep pushing, man. I need all your muscles. All right. There you go. Yep, it's better than that. What I'm beginning to realize at this point is not only is it wedging up against the front of the grill, it's also bending the top plate where the hood latches into, so I'm gonna have to go back and fix that later.
Round 2. Fight!
All right, so that first attempt failed, but I think I've got an idea now. I was trying to get something to lift the front end up higher so I can get it up and over this right here, which is the problem. I already broke some of the fan, but I think if I use a ratchet strap to help angle it up and lift only from the front as much as possible, I think I'll be able to control it and get it at the right position, but we'll see. Yeah, so let me get that going and we'll see if I'm correct. You know, I did really well in my physics classes, but I'm old now and I've forgotten that no matter how much of an angle I try to put on it, if I'm leveraging against the cherry picker, it's not gonna go anywhere. I'm pretty much using the ratchet strap to hold the weight of the entire engine, which isn't ideal, isn't safe, and isn't gonna get me where I wanna be. So, keep doing this. But then it finally dawned on me that I needed to extend the cherry picker arm at least one more level so that I have forward and backwards movement on the cherry picker. So as I'm lifting it up, I can push it back into the well and continue to lift.
Yep.
Check it out.
One good shove and some pumping, we'll get this thing out. Look at that.
All right, so go.
Well, it's just gravity.
I really hate modifying tools to get a job done, but in this case, it was either this or figure out another way on how I can level out the engine.
Okay.
And yes, this was Yogi Mama's idea, not mine. In fact, I put up a fight. That was not me. Lift it. 1, 2, 3, pull it. Okay. Well. Okay. Now, as this thing comes down, it'll swing.
Yeah.
All right. I want it about right there. Okay.
There.
That transmission's gonna fall until I disconnect it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on the ground. Let it go. Let it go. Get it settled. Woo! Thank you.
Pay your respects.
Thank you.
Yogi wins.
This sucks. That was not fun at all. What I don't show you in that video is the time that it takes to get to the final outcome. And to be perfectly frank, it's kind of embarrassing, but at the same time, it was a great learning experience with not only my wife helping Yogi Mama, as well as my son and his girlfriend helping me as well to figure this out. So not much damage was done. The plastic fan in the front had a stripped out bolt, so I couldn't take it out. I decided to leave it in, and it got a little chunk taken out of it. In fact, that's the chain, kinda. I may have TT'd myself a little bit. Yeah, you can see a little bit of it broke right there, no big deal. And then a little bit of a tooth right there. So everything else came out no problem. The issue was, as you saw, that the angle that you have to pull this engine out, and even Mercedes recommends that you pull the entire power unit, including the gearbox. So you had to pull it out like this, right? So I put my cherry picker on the first setting on the extension when I should have gone at least 1 or 2 more to give me more forward and backwards movement on the cherry picker. So what that will do is when you're lifting the engine up and you're getting close to the front of the car, you're able to push push the engine back in because you have that movement, and then go higher, wash, rinse, repeat until you saw the engine at this massive steeped angle. That leveler is great, but if that handle gets jammed up against a chain when you're at the max level, there's no way of turning it to level it out. So my wife's idea was to cut the handle. I resisted at first, but I came to my senses, cut that cheapo handle, put a socket, as you saw, and just ratcheted it back like that and swung it over the top. Not fun. I'd say a total commitment was about 4 to 4.5 hours to figure all of this out. Now, so what's next? Well, I've got the engine out, obviously, sitting right here next to me. I'm gonna take off any useful components on this thing. Obviously, the accessories are gonna come with it, the alternator, as well as the secondary air pump, I think is what that one is over there. If you guys know what that unit is above the alternator, let me know in the comments below. So I gotta reconnect all of that, run the belt, but first, obviously, we gotta check to make sure that that engine is good enough so I can put it in there. What I mean by that is I need to do a leak down test. I scoped out 2 of the cylinders. I'm gonna scope out the other 2. We're gonna do a leak down test on it and make it ready for transplant. Super exciting stuff coming up in the next few episodes. So be sure to like and subscribe, smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time on Yogi's Garage.
Yo, microphone check, make it a microphone check. Give it a microphone, I make it a microphone.